Hello and welcome to hopefully the first of many podcasts brought to you from the South Tees Academic Centre for Surgery, or ACeS for short. We hope to bring you regular updates from the department, exciting news stories, research developments, and sometimes just some really interesting discussions with some really interesting people. My name is Stephen Liggett, one of the team here at ACeS. However, thankfully for everybody listening, I am not here alone. I'd like to offer a big welcome to Natalie Clark.
Hello.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about the work you do here at ACeS?
Yeah, so as Stephen's very kindly introduced, my name's Natalie. I work at the Academic Centre for Surgery as the Clinical Trials Coordinator, but also by background, I'm a trainee health psychologist. So while I've been working at the Academic Centre for Surgery, I've been completing my portfolio in health psychology to hopefully get HCPC registered as a health psychologist by the end of this year. I've focused my training and interest around the hypermobility patient population.
So just to give the heads up, your stuff about health psychology and your project is absolutely on the cards for podcast 2, if you'd like to come back to that.
Yeah.
But for this first episode, we thought we'd run through the ACeS strategy, which has just been developed to cover 2024 to 2029. I'm presuming after this first episode goes out, I'll be handed my P45, so the chances of me reaching 2029 with ACeS is pretty slim. However, I was also thinking, before we jump into the strategy, because you've been here since the very start of ACeS, Natalie, could you maybe give us a run through of how ACeS started and kind of where those ideas came from?
Yeah, so I mean, I suppose sort of in the initial discussions, it was obviously Luxie and Amar's baby, if you like, from the beginning. Obviously, I know that concept sort of came up a bit before COVID, but as with everything else, it sort of got a bit pushed to the side because of everything stopped when there's a pandemic.
Absolutely.
So it did sort of get picked up again when the pandemic sort of had settled down.
Yeah.
And obviously it was a really exciting time and opportunity, because I suppose when I was in the delivery side more of research rather than setting up, I was being exposed to a bit more of setting up and designing the projects, which is what Luxie and Prof are obviously really good at, and it's where their strengths are. And obviously they could see that vision to create a department in Teesside to obviously help create that research and generate research interest from here. So yeah, it was a really exciting time to be able to be involved in that. And obviously I was really honoured to be able to be asked to become a part of that department and migrate over, especially with my background in health psychology. I could obviously see that gap of where I could integrate my knowledge and my background, my research, my experience into the department to help it grow.
Fantastic. So as you may or may not know, the core team of ACeS at the minute is quite small, so hopefully you'll hear from everyone in the next few podcasts and you'll hear a bit more about how ACeS began. You mentioned there about the vision for ACeS, and I suppose that's where we should start on the strategy discussion. So the main vision of how I understand it for ACeS is trying to improve outcomes for surgical care for people in the region, South Tees and the North East, and obviously hopefully having an impact further afield of that. It's potentially quite a tricky question, but how do you think that happens in a practice, Natalie? Or have you already seen kind of demonstrations of that already?
Yeah, so we've already seen sort of demonstrations. Obviously, our main background and Amar and Luxie's main background is in trauma and orthopaedic research. So it was obviously a really exciting opportunity to be able to expand that across more surgical specialties. But from the background of trauma and orthopaedics, Amar Rangan, specifically his trials like PROFA, which looked at proximal humerus fractures, and then UK Frost, which looked at frozen shoulder. They've been really impactful. I can speak personally from UK Frost because I was involved in the dissemination after the trial. So it got published in a really high impactful journal, The Lancet. And then following the study findings, we engaged with a lot of stakeholders to obviously help try and embed that evidence into practice, because there has been research out there to say that it's not necessarily just the research alone that has to change practice. You need to take into the totality of all the evidence out there. So you need to consider what's actually happening in clinical practice. What are the barriers? What are the facilitators? So that's what we did with UK Frost to help disseminate the findings from UK Frost, taking into consideration all the stakeholders' experiences and what they've found. So yeah, we've been able to generate now a pathway for treatment for frozen shoulder. We've had discussions with the policymakers from getting it right first time, NHS England. So yeah, it's been really impactful. It's still an ongoing piece of work, but that's showing how we're improving patient outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on there, obviously you're trying to change people's behaviours as well, changing protocols or pathways, and developing those surgical techniques, which I think brings us quite nicely on to the ACeS mission statement, which again I'm kind of summarising here, but is to establish a world-leading centre for collaboration with surgical research and kind of academic organisations. And a big driver for me to try and join ACeS was that I think that is such an exciting mission to have, because it's often the intersections between the NHS, academic organisations and industry where like you get fresh ideas and innovation, and research can really flourish when loads of people work together. Obviously, we work pretty closely with some universities and external organisations already. Do you want to run through maybe 2 or 3 of those, Natalie? Is that all right?
Yeah, so I mean, we obviously are one of the partners within that are linked with this is at the University of York. So we do have very strong links with the York Trials Unit, different statisticians, researchers of different backgrounds. So we've got that range of expertise, health economics as well. And they obviously help us to contribute to designing and developing research interests when we get approached with ideas. Personally as well, we've had collaborations with Newcastle University via my health psychology supervisor. And then also we do try and extend our international collaborations as well. So we have been working on a project for ACJ outcomes with one of our academic fellows over in New Zealand. So we've got that joint collaboration and hopefully a future collaboration opportunity with Canada looking at joint infections.
Fantastic. So yeah, I mean, again, to me, that is so exciting that you get the opportunity to collaborate with a whole range of people across kind of the whole of the globe, really. It's kind of exciting times to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I like most about the department as well is because it's based in Middlesbrough.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It's coming out of that. It's not somewhere that you'd expect the department to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've very much touched on like a potential theme of these podcasts is to kind of promote the work that's going on here at South Tees.
Absolutely.
Across the Research Alliance. The North East really does need to blow its own trumpet a bit more.
I was going to say, we should really shine a light on North East.
100%. So hopefully this will start to play its part. So I was going to say the majority of the strategy was done before I started. It was actually all of it, I think. So you're probably the best person to take us through some of the aims.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. So obviously we've got 6 of the strategic aims that we've set for our department, one of them being to deliver and develop impactful research. So obviously making sure that what the research that we're generating is directly benefiting patients as well as the public. As we were discussing earlier, it's obviously about building, one of our second strategic aims is about building wider collaboration, so widening and strengthening our links with cross-sector organisations. And obviously I know with Stephen joining the team, you've got your own collaborations.
Yes, absolutely. So I had a secondment at the National Institute for Health and Care Research. I still have some links there. I do a little bit of charity work and things. Just get that in there. Yeah. Very charitable man. But no, you're totally right. It's kind of using the links that we all have to benefit how research is developed, making the protocols the best they can be. And then, as you were totally right a little bit before about how we then take the results out into communities and change practice that way. So yeah, you're spot on, Natalie.
Yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely. It's all about who you know. I mean, doing my own hypermobility research, the first thing that I published, obviously using X, formerly known as Twitter, to publish those results, that got me sort of my foot in the door with the hypermobility field, if you like. Then going on to do my own survey within the hypermobility community, that managed to get my foot in the door, but even more with the professionals, to being invited to present at the London Hypermobility Network Club, and then presenting later at a North East event as well for hypermobility. So yeah, I'm well and truly within the door.
No, you are.
I think I'm in the house.
You've smashed the door down, Natalie.
But yeah, those collaborations are obviously really important. And obviously, if we want to develop future research projects, having those links and getting your name out there.
100%.
Then obviously we want to look at developing our infrastructure. So we've obviously appointed our core staff. We are a staff group that is slowly growing with our academic clinical leads, Stephen as our senior project manager. And those posts obviously just growing and growing as we grow. Obviously looking to secure those appropriate facilities to accommodate our expanding workforce.
Absolutely.
So we've got our stamp somewhere in James Cook.
Yeah, would be nice.
Then one of our fourth strategic aims was looking at increasing the academic opportunities. So our department's really good at providing that mentorship and that leadership in helping to develop health research, and especially opportunities for early career researchers. Yeah. Again, from my point of view, I'm hoping to go down the doctoral fellowship point of view. We're also helping with other allied health professionals, specifically physiotherapists, looking at fellowships with the NIHR to develop their careers. But yeah, it's about, we're really good at providing that mentorship to help nurture that, and not just handhold and give you the information. Absolutely. Really.
Several conversations I've had since starting at ACeS, the amount of people that have an idea and didn't know exactly where to go. So if ACeS hadn't provided that support or place to bring ideas, they might have been a bit stuck at how to actually develop that. So that's absolutely something that's already happening. I think.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. It's a case of coming to us with an idea of what you want to develop and where you sort of see it going, and then seeing what conversations we can have to see how it can develop, or what avenue to go down. Go away, think about it a bit more, come back with more ideas, and that's sort of how it works. Just like continual feedback and mentorship, but really encouraging you to sort of be like that independent researcher. The fifth one, again, is supporting the education and training. So looking at trainee research collaboratives across surgical specialties. So we've got really well-established trainee networks within trauma and orthopaedics, the Cornet network especially. I know they've just presented at BOA Congress one of our studies looking at periprosthetic infections in shoulder and elbow. So that fortunately got presented in Birmingham this year. And then lastly, that stakeholder engagement. So ensuring that we've got that active engagement with patient and public as well as relevant stakeholders. So we're really trying to develop our patient and public research groups. We've got some for like different subspecialties. So I've got my hypermobility one. We've got one for lower limb arthroplasty. So that's your hip and knee replacement patients. We've got some for shoulder injuries as well. And then We're obviously trying to develop our more generic one that might not necessarily be linked to a specific health condition, but if you're just interested in research,
do sign up, because that's going quite slowly at the minute. We'll leave contact details at the end of this. Please get in touch.
After the end of every podcast.
Absolutely. You'll be sick of hearing our contact details. Thank you so much for running through that, Natalie. I think there's obviously there are other things in the strategy about how we actually do this in practice and in the future. There were three big things that struck me straight away. It was about trying to have impact with the research that we're doing, trying to secure that infrastructure that you spoke about. Again, potentially setting up a future podcast, but it's how we secure that space and secure the time for everybody to do research, and kind of how we get that involvement from everyone, from colleagues, from patients, from the public and stuff. So those for me were the big things that come out of that. Is there anything else that struck you with the strategy?
I think that it's just that main thing of getting our acknowledgement out there, knowing that we exist within South Tees. So obviously we're building our larger collaborations and working with different trusts and universities and things, but if there's interest in developing your own research, whether you potentially even a nurse on the ward that has an interest in research but wouldn't even know where to start type of thing, or even our research nurses that we've got now, for example, if there's little projects that they could be involved in or want to be involved in with their own idea, how can we support that sort of thing?
Absolutely. So that, I think, is an excellent summary of the strategy to date. Hopefully that's kind of set the scene for how these discussions will go in the future. If anyone's interested in hearing more, please get in touch. If you want to join us on a podcast, please get in touch. Have you got the contact details there, Natalie?
STs.ACES, so ACES, at nhs.net.
Or you can search for us on X, formerly known as Twitter.
At ACES_South Tees.
That's it. And we also have a page on LinkedIn, so you can just search for South Tees Academic Centre for Surgery. That was all right for the first one, I think, Natalie.
Is that okay?
Come back. We'll do this again, shall we? Cheers for joining us, guys, and hopefully speak to you all soon.
Thank you.